"Yes, I walked home," said old Mr. Neave, and he sank into one of the immense drawing-room chairs. "But why didn't you take a cab?" said Ethel. "There are hundreds of cabs about at that time." "My dear Ethel," cried Marion, "if father prefers to tire himself out, I really don't see what business of ours it is to interfere." "Children, children!" coaxed Charlotte. But Marion wouldn't be stopped. "No, mother, you spoil father, and it's not right. You ought to be stricter with him. He's very naughty." She laughed her hard, bright laugh and patted her hair in a mirror. Strange, when she was a little girl she had such a soft, hesitating voice. She had even stuttered. And now, whatever she said, even if it was only "Jam, please, father," it rang out as though she were on the stage. "Did Harold leave the office before you, dear?" asked Charlotte, beginning to rock again. "I'm not sure," said old Mr. Neave. "I'm not sure. I didn't see him after 4 o'clock." "He said—" began Charlotte. But at that moment Ethel, who was twitching over the leaves of some paper or other, ran to her mother and sank down beside her chair. "There, you see," she cried. "That's what I mean, mummy. Yellow with touches of silver. Don't you agree?" "Give it to me, love," said Charlotte. She fumbled for her tortoise-shell spectacles and put them on, gave the page a little dab with her plump small fingers, and pursed up her lips. "Very sweet," she crooned vaguely. She looked at Ethel over her spectacles. "But I shouldn't have the train." "Not the train," wailed Ethel tragically. "But the train's the whole point." "Here, mother, let me decide." Marion snatched the paper playfully from Charlotte. "I agree with mother," she cried triumphantly. "The train overweights it." Old Mr. Neave, forgotten, sank into the broad lap of his chair, and, dozing, heard them as though he dreamed. There was no doubt about it. He was tired out. He had lost his hold. Even Charlotte and the girls were too much for him tonight. They were too... But all his drowsing brain could think of was, too rich for him. And somewhere at the back of everything he was watching a little withered ancient man climbing up the endless flights of stairs. Who was he? "I shan't dress tonight," he muttered. "What do you say, father?" "Eh? What?" Old Mr. Neave woke up with a start, and stared across at them. "I shan't dress tonight," he repeated. "But father, we've got Lucille coming, and Henry Davenport, and Mrs. Teddy Walker. It will look so very out of the picture. Don't you feel well, dear?" "You needn't make any effort. What is Charles for?" "But if you're really not up to it," Charlotte wavered. "Very well, very well." Old Mr. Neave got up and went to join that little old climbing fellow just as far as his dressing-room. There young Charles was waiting for him, carefully, as though everything depended on it. He was tucking a towel round the hot water can. Young Charles had been a favourite of his ever since as a little red-faced boy he had come into the house to look after the fires. Old Mr. Neave lowered himself into the cane lounge by the window, stretched out his legs, and made his little evening joke. "Dress him up, Charles." And Charles, breathing intensely and frowning, bent forward to take the pin out of his tie. Hum. Well, well, it was pleasant by the open window, very pleasant, a fine mild evening. They were cutting the grass on the tennis court below. He heard the soft chirr of the mower. Soon the girls would begin their tennis parties again, and at the thought he seemed to hear Marion's voice ring out, "Good for you, partner." "Oh, played, partner. Oh, very nice indeed." Then Charlotte calling from the veranda, "Where is Harold?" And Ethel, "He's certainly not here, mother." And Charlotte's vague, "He said." Old Mr. Neave sighed, got up, and putting one hand under his beard, he took the comb from young Charles, and carefully combed the white beard over. Charles gave him a folded handkerchief, his watch and seals, and spectacle case. "That will do, my lad." The door shut. He sank back. He was alone. And now that little ancient fellow was climbing down endless flights that led to a glittering, gay dining room. What legs he had! They were like a spider's, thin, withered. "You're an ideal family, sir, an ideal family." But if that were true, why didn't Charlotte or the girls stop him? Why was he all alone, climbing up and down? Where was Harold? Ah, it was no good expecting anything from Harold. Down, down went the little old spider, and then, to his horror, old Mr. Neave saw him slip past the dining room and make for the porch, the dark drive, the carriage gates, the office. Stop him, somebody! Old Mr. Neave started up. It was dark in his dressing room. The window shone pale. How long had he been asleep? He listened, and through the big, airy darkened house there floated far-away voices, far-away sounds. Perhaps, he thought vaguely, he had been asleep for a long time. He'd been forgotten. What had all this to do with him? This house and Charlotte? The girls and Harold? What did he know about them? They were strangers to him. Life had passed him by. Charlotte was not his wife. His wife. A dark porch, half hidden by passion vine, that drooped sorrowful, mournful, as though it understood. Small, warm arms were round his neck. A face, little and pale, lifted to his, and a voice breathed, "Good-bye, my treasure." My treasure. Good-bye, my treasure. Which of them had spoken? Why had they said good-bye? There had been some terrible mistake. She was his wife, that little pale girl, and all the rest of his life had been a dream. Then the door opened, and young Charles, standing in the light, put his hands by his side and shouted like a young soldier, "Dinner is on the table, sir." "I'm coming, I'm coming," said old Mr. Neave. End of story.